the vehicle for doing business. For those of us who wants to own business, how do we go about it? What are the vehicles through which we can actually be part of a business, or at least to own one? And of course, we will later on, for those of us who want to buy and sell from who want to buy from the owner of businesses and the business selling to the public. So we get to look at that. But let us unpack this other one first and see what exactly that portends for the knowledge in business law. Now, um, I did say that the one primary mode for owning business is through a sole proprietor or through sole proprietorship. And what that means simply, what that simply means is that you are a one-man business. You own your business yourself, and no one else is a co-owner. Ownership is 100% in you. But what does that mean? And what are the implications of you being a sole owner? Now, it is important that we bear in mind that the fact that you are, or one person is a sole owner does not mean that he is the only person to do the job or to run the business or to operate it. Because always note that ownership is different from operation, from control. You may own a business, you may own a business, but you may lack the time to work it. There is a way through which others can help, or you can bring in people to get it done. After all, when you have a booming business as a one-man person, what does that mean? You are expanding, it's getting bigger. And then what do? You bring in more people, you employ, people to join you so that the handling and the management can go very swiftly. So it doesn't have to rest everything on you. And it is important that you note this fact that being an owner doesn't mean that you are going to be a sole worker. No, you will not even be the worker. Your own is to own, to control everything in one, and then you are able, to monitor all of those things. So that is very, very important. That, and as I said, it is also possible that when you are comfortable with the one business you are dealing with at a particular location, you can expand. You can open up further branches in other states. What do? There are ways of deploying, the concept of agency to facilitate and to make that happen for you. So that again is to show that being an owner doesn't mean that you are only the person to run it or to operate it. You can set up 5 businesses in 5 different states. You cannot be in all of those states at once, but you need people to be there. What do? You bring them as agents. You put them in charge of these businesses, and then you are good to go. What your own role I will speak to it later because you have a very key role to play if you are in that type of situation. It can work, and it has worked for a lot of people, for businesses. So why not for you? So it can also work. It can also work for you. So we're going to look at all of those nuances and then so you understand properly how these things work. Now, the implication of being a sole owner is that, well, you are the one funding the capital. You are providing the funds for the business. And again, that is the theory that, okay, you are being the owner, you have to be a sole owner, you have to be the person to provide funds and stuff. No, because availability of funds or provision of funds, has its own I mean, economic issues start around it. You doesn't have to be your money. You can go get a loan. You can borrow, and then if you have the necessary collateral, money can come from other people. On loan. So it doesn't have to be your money. You can use other people's money to do your business. The only difference is that when you engage that route of funding, of course, you have to pay, when you supply capital, collateral, you also pay interest rates on the amount of money you have taken because equity or capital is not free. Capital, there's a cost of capital. And as a result, you must be ready when you are borrowing that. But if you are ready to borrow and you need to borrow, why not? Sometimes it's efficient. Okay, it's efficient. So that is just it. We know the point that a sole proprietor will fund that or from credit that is taken from elsewhere. That is doable. It's possible also in that kind of regard. So we've seen that he's not alone in terms of running the business. He is alone as the owner, but he's not alone in running. So, and there are other ways to get people involved, to have things done and push the business forward. So we need to understand that. Then the other one, of course, is that though anxiety is limited to the one you can create for yourself. If you are alone in the business, you think things out, you look at the method, you look at how best you can do stuff. Again, that is your responsibility because you don't have a partner that you can listen to or that can put in some ideas or that you can discuss risk with, you can discuss strategy, you know, um, yeah, the logistic issues. Should it be here in Lagos? Why don't we move into less or more? I mean, it must be here because there is a market. All of those analysis, you get someone else to do with you if you are two. But because you are one, why not? You will do it alone. Again, I will say that it's not doing it alone, it's not casting the stone or in stone because you may do you may be the only person as the owner who have to spearhead thinking. I guess your role is just to know that you have a lot of responsibility to think about how your business will succeed. But in terms of brainstorming, no law limits you to yourself. You can tap friends. After all, the world is connected. You can check things out online. You can approach your friends, even your spouse. If your spouse is not part of your business, you can approach him or her. Of course, they're always willing and able to chip in one or two things and say, "Oh, I never thought about that. That's good. That's good." So there are so many ways to cushion the effect, the harsh effects of loneliness in business. You can bring in people that are close by, and they may not even think about charging. They just want to see that they are lending a hand to a friend, and it works out often that way. Okay, so these are the things. So when we articulate the the textbook pros and cons, you always remember that all of these things, in reality, when you blend it with reality, you see that there is a lot of flexibility in these things, and it's not as bad after all. Now, the other issue that we need to also bear with the sole proprietor is the fact that you know um, okay, we have talked about uh, being the sole owner. When we talk about liability now, you see, because the law does not separate you from your business. When they see your name as a sole proprietor, the law recognizes that the business is you are the business. So if there is liability, incurred by that business, it is you that has incurred that liability. And therefore, the business assets must pay for it. If it is not sufficient, your creditor must look beyond that business into your own personal estate. Do you have monies elsewhere? If the answer is yes, Are you fully loaded asset-wise? If it's yes, of course they can grab what you have to satisfy, your business indebtedness, because there is no separation in law between you and that business. So that is very critical, and it is important that we bear all of those in mind. Of course, the good part of it is that if your business, is properly managed and there's a lot of profit, they are all yours. The profit are all yours. At least the net profit. Because I use the word net, I'm sure you understand this one better than I do. That making money is one thing. That is gross. What you can take away is net. You have to pay salaries, you have to pay interest rate on your loan, you have to pay your rent and some other things. You must deduct it for whatever gross money you have. And of course, above all, you pay your tax, the personal income tax. So it will be. And it is when all of these things are taken care of that you can now see profit. And you can smile really either thinly or broadly, or just be, no emotion, okay? And you can also go to church at that point and to tithe, I mean, to give your tithe, you know. Oh, thank God for His mercy, for a good year, very progressive. Business is doing quite well and stuff. So these are some of the advantages you see from sole proprietorship. Of course, anything that has advantages, there's always the other side around the corner. You know, when you okay, then part of the advantages, let me quickly touch it, is that sometimes there is a lot of blessing in just doing something all by yourself, and there's no multiple ownership involved, because sometimes you would have been best or be at your best to manage your business, because the nuisance that is created is just your own nuisance. By the time you bring a partner into it or another person into it, then you have to deal with the person's idiosyncrasies. And some of us, in, in partnership, we are really very handful. We just create stress, problems, argumentation, always disagreeing, nothing works, So sometimes it is very, 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 very uncomfortable for business growth. So things would have to a point that you might have to regret that. I wish, I was
Hola, yo no
alone.
la veces.
I wish I was alone, and those kind of regrets do come. Now, so we talk about the advantages, virtually everything that is advantages, the opposite is a disadvantage. Well, um, if you have if you have more people, for instance, there will be more money, less loan, and it is good for business. But of course, rather than you being the only person sharing profit, you have to share with another person. It's not really a disadvantage. You understand. The only thing is that if you're alone, you may not be able to raise as much capital as you would have raised. If you had brought in one or two other people as owners now, as owners. So that limitation of interest-free capital or funds is always there. And of course, when there's a loss, all the loss, is yours to bear. Nobody is going to carry your cross, for you. You are going to carry it yourself. And if it is heavy, and then of course they will ask you who sent you. Why didn't you bring in other people and stuff like that? So these are some of the disadvantages that you have to live with. And it's also important that all of the losses are yours. So the creditors look at you, and you can, in the course of that, also lose your own personal property, to satisfy your business indebtedness, okay, which would have kept somewhere for a raining day or for future. Okay. So those things are the things I want you to bear in mind. Now, having said that, I did tell you that part of not being alone is to deploy agency, whereby you can expand your business into so many states, five or, and then you are in Lagos, is the capital where your business is operating from, and you are setting up satellite time, and then you want to be able to capture those markets as well. And being situated in Lagos, you cannot be in these other states. So what do? You engage agency concept, and what that means is that you hire someone as your agent or several people depending on the number of businesses out there you have opened, and you put them in charge one by one. Now, when you do that, it brings a lot of, in the practicality of situation, it brings a lot of must do's for you. You have to be able to recognize that agency, as good as it is, why it makes things work, it also makes things unworkable. Okay, and the reason why it is so is that agency, the existence of an agent shows that you have someone that you empower to put your business, you know, in his trust to run for you. He knows it's not the owner. He knows it's not the owner. So if the owner is not available, indeed, then the agent is going to take things into his hands. Okay, it's going to make things into his hands. So the very first responsibility for any sole proprietor that has engaged agency is the capacity to monitor. Monitoring is very important. You set standards. You know, you create your boxes. You tick them. You know, you must ensure that you are receiving reports from those businesses around certain issues, and you must be very satisfied. I mean, you must be satisfied that the information you are getting, they are correct, they are not twisted, they are reliable. Is very important. That you get somebody to do this for you. And let me say this. When I talk about agency, I mean people who have the capacity to manage businesses for you or for other people. It doesn't have to be someone from a family. It doesn't help. We must be very objective about these things and then be very clear about how you go about it. So the second thing, apart from monitoring, ensuring that there is a debriefing section, so the agent knows that, madam, this guy is going to call me very soon. I have, to debrief, I had to provide information, update, and all of those things. So you are also on your toe. You must be a sole proprietor that can put agents on their toe so that they are working. But while they are working, something else must happen. Now, when you engage a man or a woman to work in your best interest, it is very imperative that you must make that person see himself as part of your business. And there are some steps you must take for that to happen. Communication is very key. You see, you must speak well to your agent. Don't shout. You must have some value systems in terms of interactions. Don't shout at people. Don't use words that are degrading. You make them think negatively. And once you start doing so, your business will start to collapse from there. So many of us can't communicate properly, particularly when you see yourself as the owner, and then somebody is doing, you want to lord it and make the person smell it that really, who are you without me kind of stuff. It doesn't work well. Your communication must be good. You must talk to people and make them feel good about themselves. You can't be shouting at people, calling them names, bad names, and then hoping that they will be happy. they will not be happy. That's number one issue, or number two. Then, above all, you must also ensure that you have a workable, productive or sufficient reward system. The reward system is the compensation packages. How are you paying? Are you paying well? If you don't pay well and is spending time on your business, he will help you pay himself. And that is also part of where you'll be having problems when it has come to that. You see, and in this country, very many businesses or even governments, they don't pay, their agents well. They don't. Where do we start from? Is it the police? The police people, they are never paid well. Well, you know what is happening already. They are paid. They try to pay themselves. At what cost? At what cost? There's no point for us to go into these details because we live through this in Nigeria. We see how bad reward system, what problem it can create for society. Okay, that is one part of it. Look at, the civil servants. They work every day from morning to evening. They have children, they have family. How much do they get per month? How can they, be happy to address all of their needs? But, and government doesn't really care. But then they find a way to pay themselves. And you talk about administrative corruption. Can you come, can you come? What do you want them to do? They're not going to commit suicide. They will stick in there. They will find a way around it. A lot of things may not work. They don't care because they need to survive. And they're not going to kill themselves because, you as the boss doesn't really care. They have to care for themselves first. And that is why their system doesn't ever work. Even the ones who pay, even the ones who pay well or who pay themselves well, they still don't think about their principles. Our system, political systems, is built on agency. You have governors, you have presidents, you have lawmakers. We voted them in. We are the principal. Because we don't have the time they are spending to do this stuff, they did democratic stuff for us. They govern the state and all that. At the end, all we hear is a governor has paid $870,000 ahead of 5 years ahead for the school fees of children, or that there is a 92 billion or $82 billion or naira somewhere unaccountable for. You wouldn't say governors are not paid well. That is the one you pay well with all the largesse of the world, cars, vehicles, privileges. Yet it is not enough. And there are so many that, given that we are part of this society, we don't even need to say too much so that we don't get angry. Okay? So reward system is very key, minus the politicians, because those ones defy logic. Their attitude as they are agents, but their attitude defies logic. We pay them well. In fact, they pay themselves well enough, yet they still don't give us any benefits, any positive news all of the time. Okay. So that is that. So the reward system is very important. You must learn how to pay well. When you pay your agent very well, you make him feel as part of you. You elevate his soul. You make him happy from within. It is maybe for a moment to make him feel that he doesn't even have problem, even though he has. But he's happy. Happiness overwhelms and overcome some of these snacks he has in his life, and so much that he can still continue to focus on this work and get it done. Okay? So some of these things are crucial. You must treat an agent in such a way that you make him incur what I call bonding cost. Because every agent will generate agency costs for your business. So the best you can do as the principal is to reduce that cost. You cannot eliminate it. It is always there. It is the magnitude of it that differs from case to case. Some people are good principals, they handle things tough, you know, they make agents happy. So you hardly notice that they are taking one or two stuff away from you because there is no motivation. It's not compulsory because they are happy. It's only when the reward system is so bad that you realize that nothing is working. Okay. Remember in those days when you buy a bus, transportation bus, you hand it over to someone. It will work it for you. You have to bring money every day, the experiences, I mean, that style of life have stopped because the experiences people had were nasty experiences. The agents you are giving your car, at the end of the day, they will buy one car, I mean, one bus, two car on your own bus, and it's always a problem. They tell you that they have been at the police stations this morning. Meanwhile, they are in Abuja. There's always problems, so that you don't get to even enjoy their stewardship. So nobody talks much about that one anymore, except you are going to be part of the monitoring and stuff like that. That is the kind of problems agents can create. But you can make them happy. You can make them feel they are part of you. You can make them do things, make sacrifices for your business, make go all the way to bring the goods from outside inside. Okay? Because you are doing something well enough to change their mindset and turn it favorably towards you and your business. So when you are deploying all of these concepts, you also have to understand the human element that is embedded in it, and that the need for you to also implement those things that are crucial to make them dedicate their time, and energy to your business. Okay. So that much is important that we know. If you're able to do that, of course, you'll be happy. I said I don't know whether there are people within your class that remember the case of P&ID. Those people that came from Ireland, formed a company in Nigeria. They wanted to convert our dry gas into power, and then they were working with representatives of Nigeria who were our agents, and then it was a fraudulent scheme. And before you know it, we were in breach. They have gone to arbitration. They didn't take the arbitration to Nigeria, they took it to London. They will never go and stuff like that. And there was judgment. First it was 6 billion, then later it's 9 billion, then later on it became 11 billion dollars before we woke up. And then Iran started running up and down, investigating. Things would have done since we were almost going to lose out $11 billion, because of our nastiness. And it's simply because the agents that acted for us were compromised. They were compromised because of the thing I'm saying. Maybe this is the opportunity to cash out after all. For the years they have spent, civil servants spent almost about 30 years, 35 years in service. And then they are leaving service, not even knowing where to go. Okay, if you give them house, you would have allocated that house to somebody else, who will be troubling them and their family. So where do they go? So these are the things that often create problems, you know, and then motivate them to also want to help themselves. It's because the reward system is bad. The reward system is utterly bad, and we are looking at how to get or make these things really work very well for the agents and from agents to the principal. Okay, so those are things that you should note. Let me also emphasize that although you are a sole proprietor and the business is yours, you are the business, you can, it is possible now under our law to register, to incorporate your business with you only as the shareholder, as the sole owner. It's possible. And when you are able to do that, of course, what you would have done is to bring some privileges and advantages to your side, if one may not so say. You are still the person in charge running the business. What you have just changed, is the form of that business. Now it is an incorporated company. You are still the manager or the director. You are still the owner, and then you are still the one running it, with your employees and stuff like that. And you can bring in more other employees to help you expand. That is possible. Now, the good thing about incorporation is you have limited the business is now a legal person, is separate from you. Okay. And as a result, the law doesn't see you as the business or the business as you. You are now different in your own right from your business that is also a person in law and is so recognized, and can continue to act, differently than you. Okay. And then you have limited liability if that is your choice of uh, of liability. Your liability will be limited, implying that if there is a problem in business, you cannot pay your creditors. Your creditors can only look into the assets of your business as a registered company. They cannot start looking into your wealth, personal wealth or estate, their stock. But of course, in reality or in real life situation, if you are alone, a one-man person, and you are trying to, have creditors here and there, the smart words will get you to sign commitment that if the company cannot work or pay, you will pay personally. So they can, they can sidetrack, that impediment of of risk being transferred to them. Because what limited liability does is that it externalizes the risk of business. And when you externalize it, who bears it? Of course, the creditors. Because when you owe those ones and your assets in business is not enough, they can come over for your personal estate. They are stuck with what your company has. Okay. And they will be blamed if they cannot, and if they don't understand how to deal with that kind of situation. Okay. So you must bear that in mind. And yeah, so that is another option for you to transform. And otherwise, I am my business is mine, into something that is treated, in his own, special case as a different person in law, different from the owner. So that is that. Okay, we have addressed that as sole proprietorship as, a vehicle for owning business or, running business. Okay. Now we can go on to partnership. Okay. Partnership is almost the opposite of sole proprietor. When you are running a partnership, you must bear in mind that the the idea of partner conveys, multi. It's just not just you. It's not sold. You have a partner. This is the minimum is that you are two people involved, and it can be more than two. Bear in mind, but at least it's not you alone. And the whole essence of coming together as partners is to do business for the purpose of making profit. If it is any other business or objective that is not profit oriented, then it's not partnership. Okay. So, and of course, there are so many partnership out there. Many of us, or some of us, are part of a partnership business, just as many of us are also sole proprietor in our own right. Okay, so please bear that in mind. Now, again, as in sole proprietorship, when you are in partnership, the law still looks at your business as you and you as your business. And what that does is that it empowers every partner to bind the the business and also to bind one another. So if I do something for the business, it is binding on the business and it also binds my partners. They cannot deny the fact I am done because we are on the same legal pedestal. We are equal. We are owners, co-owners, and therefore we can partake in business, in that business, carry out some activities for the firm, and it is binding. That is very important. Okay. That is very, very important lesson you must know. And of course, because there is partnership, you would have to deal with the problems that, emanate from people you are working with in business. When business is involved, some of the people you think you don't know them. The manifestation of it is such that you want to get out of that place if it is possible, simply because we have divergent characters. We have, so many, attitude issue is important. Some of them are just simply impossible to work with. They shout, and they don't want to listen and stuff. So you spend your life arguing over what otherwise could have been dealt with, okay, peaceably. So that is some of the issues in partnership. But let us formalize it in terms of advantages. You are two or more, so you have people to consult, to share stress, to share perspectives, to also, help make things work. And it's for its own value. You don't have to carry the burden of logistic problems, the burden of strategy for expansion, the burden of, it's good. You have someone to talk to. It's always very helpful. So bear that in mind. Partnership is good, very good, because it lessens the burden. I mean, it shares, it allows burden sharing, and so that it's not as heavy on one person and all of that. Then, of course, raising capital, if we can contribute, amongst ourselves to raise money for the business is good, and the more people there are to contribute capital, the better for the business. What simply means is that if we are raising it from what we have, then we are less on loan and more on equity. When when you depend largely on loan to make your business grow, that's what we talk about leverage, that a business is highly leveraged. It's because there's a lot of indebtedness. That's what they talk about leverage. Okay. So, and what that simply means is that there's a lot of empowerment you have given to your creditors, so because they need those kind of powers to also protect themselves. So, being leveraged means that you also surrender some ownership rights or management rights, just to create some capacity, I mean, some balance in terms of running that business without paying attention to creditors. So it's very important. Okay. So, that is also that part. When you have partnership, all the monies can come within. You will not have to go raise capital and face, the higher cost of capital and stuff like that. So that is that. Again, because the business of the partners is for the partners and the partners are for the business, again, liability, all the partners are jointly liable. Partners are jointly and severally liable as well. What's the essence of being jointly liable or severally liable? That is, being jointly liable is that the indebtedness of the partnership business is for everybody, every partner together, jointly. As a business, you are liable. So it is possible because of the joint effect for me to grab one person I believe is much more buoyant in terms of financial capacity to collect or sue the person without focusing on the other partners, to the extent of the indebtedness that the business is owing me. And I'll get judgment. But because liability is several, I also have opportunity to sue all of them together so that they can make contribution. But even if I do, you know, um, hold one responsible, that one can also call the other partners to come and make contributions. They can, that person can join the others and then make them also liable to for compensation or for contribution, to the extent of the indebtedness and stuff. So, so that is just that. So you should bear that in mind. But one tricky thing is that, which is also funny about partnership. Normally when you have a partnership business and your creditors are dealing with the business, the creditors has an obligation to monitor the asset of the partners because it is often the case that the business may not have enough capital if it's badly run. So a creditor dealing with partners must invest in monitoring of assets of the partner so that if they are hiding this thing, well, there's a motivation to hide assets. Okay, so but then creditors should be ahead of time or ahead of the somebody is talking about not sharing screen. I'm not sharing any screen. I am going through the course outline and discussing it. So my voice is my screen, and I want to believe that all of this thing I'm saying, you are not picking points and jotting things. That is what students do. You have to be able to summarize, and I'm not talking that far. So you have to summarize at least the key points of what I'm saying that you go over. Those are the most important things. Okay? And that is why we are saying all these things together right now. So please help yourself. It is not a tea party. This is a class. We are learning, and you must be sitting up as a student, not that you are in bed and you are just enjoying yourself. Of course, I will not know. It's not my business, and it doesn't hurt me. But to the extent of your preparation or readiness for a class like this section, you must pick your pen, sit up your paper, and then as I raise some of those issues, the key points, note them up. I mean, note them down. That's what makes you a student. Not that. And if you know everything, you don't have to jot anything. So be it. It was also possible. So let's go ahead. So I was talking about the need for partners to, for the creditors to monitor assets of partners so that in case they are hiding these things, you are ahead of them and you know where they are. That is one part of it. Even the partners themselves, even the partners themselves also, they also you also have to watch each other because remember I said that all the partners are liable. Some of them will also be dodging their assets from their own partner because they are not transparent and they want to cheat the other. So you also have to invest in monitoring one another so that when problems wrong come and they are holding you responsible for the debt of the business, you don't want them to also take advantage of you because you already know what they are doing and stuff like that. So it's important that that one also happens. Okay. So that is that. Now, but one key, so we have dealt with the need to monitor, the need to make contributions, the importance of being in partnership, the legal implication that all the partners are liable, and of course, and they have to co-contribute. And of course, all the partners are agents. They can work for one another and for the business. That is their privileges and the right. Then, but sometimes it's not tidy. So you may appoint one of you as the managing partner so that he spares his own time and all of that. Now, but at the heart of, and it is very important, there are so many issues that you have to resolve as a partner. You have to resolve these things as a partner, and that is why agreement is very, very important. Agreement of partnership is important because it's that document that you address all the issues that concern your welfare, your business, your rights, and then you agree. By the time we start looking at the types of legislation, you will see why it is important to actually understand how to agree. Now, and when you are agreeing, this is where negotiation comes in. See, you cannot be in partnership and not be able to talk your mind or to address or call your colleagues to address sticking issues. Okay? And it's not just limited to businesses, even in social partnership, marriages. If you're not going to talk, some of us cannot discuss their concerns with their spouse to be, they rely on Holy Spirit and stuff like that. But then, well, since they are seeing the Holy Spirit and is talking to them, that's okay. But then, if you are not seeing anything, then you have to at least, clarify certain things so that you have a clear expectation and you don't get into these marriages and you are meeting strange stuff and then you're unhappy. Partnership to make people happy that are partners to it, are involved in it. But more often than not, it makes people even sadder, than they were before they started it. Now, so that point is also very, very important. Now, we should have started, I should have raised this issue in terms of partnership. There are types. You see, you can enter into a partnership on just one objective. Look at Zamfara or Osun State, we learned that they have gold in those areas. And you call your friend, can we go to Zamfara and then and you contribute money and then just mine golds and then make our money. It could be that objective, just to mine golds in Zamfara or Osun State. So your partnership in making money or profit is about mining gold in Zamfara. That is a definite object. It can be on anything. Don't get me wrong. So you can focus on a particular activity, or object or objective, whichever way you call it, and then make and put your resources together and then pursue your dreams. And sometimes these dreams are worth your while, and then you make money out of it. Okay? So that kind of partnership, once you have achieved that object, then the partnership is dissolved. You have to remember that it will dissolve. Once the object is achieved, then it is dissolved. Then partnership may also be for a specific period of time, maybe 4 years, maybe 3 years. So again, once year one, year two, year three, after that, that partnership should dissolve. Except the partners now want to extend the lifespan of that particular partnership, that is possible. Now, the third type is that a partnership can be for unlimited period of time. There is no timeline to it. It continues, but in that kind of situation, there are ways to end it. Notice we end it. some other events will end it. We are going to get to it so that at least we have an understanding. Okay. So, so those are the types, and they come with how they can also be terminated or at least ended. Okay. So it is very, very important that we keep all of these issues as we talk about. We are still going to look into the law. I'm going to, after this class now, I'm going to send the act, Partnership Act, to your class captain. He will circulate it in your on your portal, and then indicate the sections I need you to work on, so that when we are discussing the next time, you would have read ahead of me, and then it is much easier for us to understand the focus of these things. And the whole essence is to sensitize, create awareness, not to turn you into partnership lawyers, but at least to create awareness around the issues that are likely to come around. So it is more practical than being theoretical as far as I'm concerned, because if we reduce it into practice, I mean to theory, they might, even the language itself might be confusing and stuff like that. But there are certain aspects of it that we could start from theory, but which will be practicalized because they are in the nature of, like all of the agency issue I was talking to you. They may be theoretical, but they are also realistic because it is what is happening. It has its own values, advantages and disadvantages, and you must link it to every activity that is ongoing in the world of business. So that is very important. Okay. So we are going to look at that. I will transfer the Partnership Act with the relevant section. Just focus on the ones I point out. You know, I will explain them in a way that you can better understand what I want you to understand about that. Okay. So that is that. Then the other types of vehicle is to know, before we go there, I also want you to know that under our law now, under the company's law or the company's legislation, let me just call it that way. We call it CAMA, Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. So, but then it's just the statute I'm referring to. You can also incorporate your partnership. That's what we call limited liability partnership. Limited liability partnership. Okay. And so we are going to look at that, and I want you to bear in mind that just as you can incorporate your sole proprietor or sole proprietorship, you can also incorporate your partnership as limited liability partnership. So the advantage of it again is to separate the business from the partners, and then create some some line in the sand for creditors. You cannot transfer your problem in business to their estate. You have to limit, your what you are looking for. You must limit to the business assets and stuff like that. But of course, as it is normal, there is always a way out for such kind of problems, so that you are not stuck as a creditor. So, but the fact that you can separate your business partnership, business from yourself is very, very good. It's important that to pay attention to that, just for you to know. And it has its own value. It insulates your estate from the indebtedness, and then, so all of that little things that you are going to see, or you need to know, that will be pointed out, and it's important. Now, the then we come to incorporation. That is to register a company. We are used to that at CAC. You register your company. Two people can register a company. Of course, remember we've talked about one person doing it. But that is a recent allowance for Nigerians to be able to do that. So two people can register, and when you register, you enjoy separate personality, concept or principle. You are different from your business is different from you. If you pick your limited liability as your mode of liability, or your choice of liability, then you are also not going to be responsible for the indebtedness of your company, beyond what you pay on the shares you own. If you have paid all the shares for all the shares, you don't even own anything. So it is for your creditors to be aware, because what incorporation does is to externalize, you know, is to externalize what incorporation and limited liability does. Is to externalize the risk. It's sensitive to the market. So it is those that are dealing with you that will run into trouble if they cannot protect themselves, to know that you are operating a limited liability company, and that you cannot, and that they cannot, for to satisfy the indebtedness of that company, they cannot go to the personal asset of the shareholders or directors. If they don't know, then they are at a loss. But of course, if you say you use incorporation to externalize risk, they the creditors know that you are talking to them. That externalization, they are the receiving end of it. They also will have a way of trying, of avoiding or averting the problems they are likely to face because of those principles. And that is to focus on individuals that they consider are very wealthy, or the alter ego of the business. And then you have a personal commitment that if the business cannot pay, you will pay. And if you're able to do that, why not? They're okay. And mind you, too, when they are lending, they look for collateral. That's number one. They incorporate the component of I mean, the money equivalent of the risk they are taking, dealing with a limited liability. They will also, they will also add it to the interest rate. You will not know, but that they will do, and they are taking care of themselves. And above all, they can still, you know, they can still drag your company to the court of law for winding up. They can wind it up and then distribute your assets so that they can get paid and walk away. So there are so many ways that they are protected. So I want you to bear that all of this in mind, and when you are dealing with incorporation. Then why incorporation is very good, as we've been saying, part of the downside of it is that, it is good in the sense that there are documentations for file returns, for file this, for file that, to create record for your company and your operations. But sometimes it can be very overwhelming. Okay, it can be very, very overwhelming. Except if you come, you and then your company may be forgiven. For instance, if you come under the category of small business, if you are a small business, you may be exempted from so many formalities of returns, of filing this, filing that, and all of that. And you must have someone who can track all the things you have to really file, so that you don't run afoul of the law and run into problems. Okay? So that is also very, very important. Okay, now, so we're just about 7:30 almost. So I have been talking for quite some time now. So I believe that you may have something to say about all of this explanation I have been making. You may also share, not necessarily questions. If you have questions, just ask. The house will take it. I'm here to also take it. But you may also want to share some experiences, either in any of these businesses, in the context of agency. What are your own experiences? What are your own story? So this is the time to share these things. And it's not, and let me say this to you. This class is not just about the teacher talking. It is for all of us because this is a large class. It's almost around 21 now. You see, we were struggling then to get to even 80, but we have grown to 120 something. So I know that some of you have experienced most of what I've been saying since morning. So if somebody is talking about recommended test, we are looking at it because the kind of tests that are available, they are big sometimes, and then they can be very distracting, and we don't want it to be too burdensome because if we give you a book that is almost that even to carry is a problem, then you start grumbling. But for now, we'll see what to do. But let us just continue to focus on this. It's important that you are available. You are available, and I'm sure this thing is recorded too. So you can have access to it, play it again, and then hear what we are saying. Because what we are saying here is important for your examination. This is a one semester course. As I told you, business law is a law aspect of law we do for 3 years in the law faculty. You want to do it in one semester. What practically what can we expect to know? There are so many holidays here and there. In some class now we don't have lecture tomorrow because it falls on the public holiday. That is it. So before you know it, it's time for examination. And so if you really love yourself, I will advise that be consistent and attend this class, take note, participate, and all of those things. That is what makes it all work well, okay? And I'm hoping that we, we at least buy into that. It's very important. So I'm here. Your views, your perspectives, your experiences, let us share it. Don't be selfish. I've been giving all I know. So what is your own story? Sorry, okay. Fortress, thank you.
So, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, when you were talking about agencies, and you said as an employer, you should be able to motivate people that are working for you or people that are managing your business. And you talked about the people in our public office, like the government, I mean, like the governors and all that, that they are really gone aberration from what you used to be when you're normally remunerated well and you have other perks of offices. But for me, I just think it's already becoming a societal problem for us. Because when you have a business, you bring in an agency, and for them to for them to help you to manage it. At the end of the day, it just seems as if they are only there to share the profit with you, and they are not ready to bring even idea and creativity to rake in money. And I'm saying this from a personal experience. I produce
Okay.
furniture, and producing furniture, I found out that I spend more money on delivery because our customers wouldn't want to pay. So I got a van and I employed somebody, and it was a referrer. And this is a 50 something years old man, and I found out that whenever this man goes for a trip, there is always one issue, if he travels out of Lagos, there's always one issue or the other. But when he's in Lagos, there's no issue.
That's
And
your agent, right?
yes, he
Okay.
travels with it. When there's a delivery around Lagos, it is smooth. But once it's outside Lagos, I spend like two, three times the money that rather for me just giving to a logistic company to go and do it for me. So one day we were traveling, so I told him, okay, I'm going to Sioux State, I'm going to drive behind you. And all the challenge he used to encounter on the road, no one happened. I even noticed the amount of diesel he usually buys was not what we bought going and coming in. And when I found out that issue, I have to start putting control. You know what? The next month he has to resign. So now I think it's now a societal issue because when he resigns from me or does all those things, he will easily go to another organization or a company. And I think
Now,
because
no, wait, Mr. Fortress. Let me, because of time, so that others can talk. But let me thank you for that experience. I'm happy. I mean, that is what really I want us to. Can you please mute yourself,
oh,
Mr.
sorry, sorry,
Fortress?
sorry, sorry, sorry.
Now, so, and this is what I really want to share experiences with, in this business, because I know this is a big class. In fact, I should just sit here and be listening to your story, and then we turning it into law so that you'll be able to relate to it. Now, you talk about it being a societal problem. No, agency matter is not a societal problem issue. It's a human problem. There is no agent that does not have the propensity to take advantage of his principal. I told you that the agency cost is invariable. You can minimize it, you can reduce it through so many devices, but you cannot eliminate it. If you take 10 people for that same job, you will see that the propensity to cheat you, which is what this man is doing, will also, come up. Maybe the intensity will be lower, but it is always there. And that is why, that whatever you do, okay, sometimes you do the very best you can do, they will still behave in a particular. It is human nature. It is human nature. So what you can do is to strive to reduce, to control that cost. And then, as much as possible, make them engage in what we call bonding cost. The bonding cost is what justifies them to want you to retain them and continue to treat them very well. If if the if if the remuneration is good enough, I don't think they want to walk away, simply because they want to add some one or two change to their pay along the line as they travel out of state. It will be stupid. Because it's not economic. I mean, you are then, I mean, pursuing, you know, side shows instead of the main show. And that doesn't really make any sense. So you must know, you must have a very bigger understanding, of people, of this thing. That is why, we are teaching it, in such a way that you can comprehend some of the dimension that these things involved. It comes with so many dimensions, but even limited to the one you have given to me. My own response is that, are you sure your reward system is good enough? If it is not good enough, that could be the cause where he believes going outside is the best way for him to make additional money. And there's nothing you can do, except he leaves. You can't stop him. There will always be a creative way to make those kind of money. But if your money is good enough, if that is your reward system, and if your communication with him is humane enough, and you make him happy, respected, and you don't talk down as a guy all the time, there may be some compromises here and there where ultimately you will find an equilibrium, and your business will be steady, you too will be happy, and it will be less of a stress because you are operating at a very high stress level because of his conduct. Okay, fair enough, he's gone. You're looking for somebody else, who says those things cannot come, although in different degrees. That's how, and that would be my response. But thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Any other person? Thank you, Mr. Fortress. You've helped a lot. So he has opened the floor. I'm sure he has given you some confidence that you can also share your story, and then we turn it into the principle of law we have been teaching. So it can resonate with you. This is how you understand concepts, not necessarily burying yourself. There's no amount of textbook you can read. If I bring out all of these things I've said this evening in a technical way in a textbook, you will not understand most of the language you are reading because of the language can be very difficult. You will not write as we are speaking, but we want to communicate these things to you so that you can also gain something. Mbanefo Chinelo, okay, go ahead,
Yes,
please.
sir. Yeah, I wanted to ask, you're speaking about the agency for sole proprietorship.
Yeah,
Is it, and you also said that for partnerships, agency would exist in terms of the partners. So
yeah.
I just want to clarify that a difference between the two would be that for sole proprietorship, the agency is outsourced or sort of
Okay,
um,
okay.
paid
I
for.
yes, I
Yeah.
get what you are trying to ask. Now, you see, for the sole proprietor, he's the owner of his business. Okay, nobody is working for a sole proprietor. No any other person owns the business. Now, the deployment of agency is for purpose of expansion. So he brings somebody in who is not his co-owner, who is helping him or her to manage another wing of the business as an agent. So whatever he does, affects the business of the owner of the business, that's the sole proprietor. Now, for partners, once you are in partnership, the agency in partnership is automatic, it is by law. Every partner is an agent of the partner, the other partner. That is embedded in it, it inheres in it, it lives in partnership because all the partners are co-owners. That is why they are agents of one another and agent of their own business. But the agency that you see in a sole proprietorship is one created not by law, but by you for purpose of expanding your business. They have limitations. They cannot turn around and say, let us share profit, madam. They can only live on their salaries and the perks of office that you have given to them. So please bear that in mind. And I hope you can grasp, that distinction, which is very critical. For partners, according to law, every partner is an owner and therefore can bind the other partner, can bind the business. And that is not the case, so much in the sole proprietor who that deploys agencies for expansion and for better profit. I can see those goods. I'm really liking your class and this stream too because really I've never, you are perhaps the best that I've been willing to speak out and contribute so far. I've had this thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, today, but you are different. So please let this be constant. That's the only way we can learn again. Okay, go ahead. Goes well.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Please, from what my first colleague mentioned, and we are trying to give a clarification to that because when I was listening to the lecture, you made a reference that like the governors and the rest of them, they are public agents, they're agents of the masses. But we find out that many of them are well remunerated, but they
Yes.
go outside their remuneration to
Hello. Hello. God's will.
so the minimum wage for
Okay.
Nigeria may not be too good for the people of Nigerians. Though, if we check these agency issues, sir, what do you think could be a solution? Because what my friend is saying could be a kind of a general issue that you look at, even though you pay somebody 250,000, 300,000, you pay somebody 350,000, any slightest means he has, he's going to steal. Any slightest opportunity he has, he's going to go into dubious whatever thing. Because it's no matter of the person is not well remunerated. You will see some level 14 officers in government, level 15, having seen their salaries. Peradventure, you see them in any kind of a position that one or two things could happen. You begin to hear different stories. Sir, I don't think so that the reason why maybe any agent could kind of deviate or become dubious is more or less of completely the remuneration level. I think it's a phenomenon at this point in time. That it's a general point of view that even though some people receiving 500,000 as salary in a month, you will hear certain things about them and many things. Consider even public servants, customs, even the bankers, even many things are that. Any little opportunity, you find out that the person involved is not a lower level earner.
Yes, it's okay. It's okay. God will have. Yes, I understand your point. Now, let me just say this. You see, now, part of the problem, and I will address the public, those agents for the public, for you and I. Part of the problem is that we do not have, enforcement, proper enforcement in our lives. We are the one, you know, I am yet to see any country that is as lawless as Nigeria. Even if there are laws in the book, we don't enforce it, and everybody have come to know that there is nothing we do. Otherwise, how many of these governors have stayed in jail 10 years from beginning to the end? You understand? How many has been able, have we been able to keep there? Because there is no punishment. There is no enforcement of our law. There are laws. We just don't enforce it because of bad leadership. Now, what you are saying, how come they don't try it in other countries? In China, if you do what a governor who has 82 billion, he will be killed, and that will be the end of him. By the time you kill one or two people and they realize that, yes, this thing, once it is proven, that is goodbye, it will stop. Even if we're not as drastic as killing, okay? If it is the punishment, like 10 years in jail, 15 years in jail, and we ensure that they stay there, how come our high-level people are able to spend time in jail abroad? Why don't we allow them spend the same time in our jail here in Nigeria? Why do they always get out of the problem? It's because of our lawlessness, inability to enforce laws, the seriousness of leadership, and if you are a leader, because this thing requires leadership. You could see the problem. Even getting a governor to come to EFCC, somebody who has taken a $760 something thousand of government money to pay for his own school, his own children's school fee ahead of time for 5 years in advance. Maybe because it's not his money. At that point in time, and then what do we see? The current governor is trying to shield him, enter his car to avoid it. It's all nonsense. It is the nonsense that is on display. The day we are ready to enforce our law and jail people and stay there, and we ensure that they stay jailed, it will reduce. But by the time they are coming out, they will not be the same again. They would have lost their touch. Even their head would have deteriorated irretrievably. They will change. Okay, so there is someone so that is my intervention in that one. Of course, if by culture we don't enforce laws, little by little by little by little, it becomes a laughable stuff. There's someone that raised up his or her hand. Now you are about to talk and you are gone again. If you are interested, can you please raise up your hand and make your contribution, please? And meanwhile, let me just thank those who have been talking. I really appreciate you. Yes, and you are making people understand this much better. Yes, where is the other? That person is a lady.
Good evening, sir.
Uh-huh. Good evening.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask a question
Sorry,
regarding.
sorry, what's your name? Precious.
Yes, sir, Precious.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question regarding partnership. And then when the partners have to, I know you spoke about probably liability and paying off liabilities and partners hiding their assets. And I just wanted to ask, in terms of partners paying off maybe like a form of a liability on the business, and maybe one partner has to shoulder the responsibility just to take out that burden of the other partners. Is there any law in place that ensures that the other partners also have to try and make like a refund back to that partner that has shouldered that responsibility? Or would it be a case of, oh, the business is now for this one man that has paid this huge debt off?
No, but thank you for that question. There is a law in place. All the other partners are bound to make contributions. If it is 30 million indebtedness and one person has, has paid, the others are bound to contribute their own 10, making 20 to the one that have paid. So there's a law. And as a matter of fact, when you are sued, when the creditor decides to sue you because you are the one that is visible in terms of capacity to pay and stuff like that, in that same process, you would also extend, you will bring in, you will bring them in as a partner, sorry, as a party to that case, and you will be asking for their commensurate contribution, which is their own share of the liability, that they have to pay, not just you alone. Okay, so that is that. So the idea of you paying first is expediency to get the creditors out of the way, and when that one is away, then you, as partners, can now also tidy their own thing. They are liable to you to make contributions. Okay. Now, I'm seeing, so I hope you understand that I'm seeing Fortress
Yes, sir.
again.
Thank you, sir.
I am eager to have somebody else. Yeah, but if nobody is saying, maybe Fortress can go ahead. More Fortress.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding that question, like she said, in a partnership business, one of the partners pay off like a 30 million naira loan. When if the other partners want to contribute, are they going to contribute equally or they're going to contribute by the percentage of the shares they have in the company? Because
Okay.
I know
Because
when they
that
are okay,
yes,
that one is one. That is one. I have a
okay.
second question, so you can
Go
take it.
ahead quickly.
Yeah. So now, like me, okay, boss, me, Fortress, and two other people, like my classmates, we started up a company. We registered it, and we're all shareholders. And one person put off. I was like, he's not really interested. He's busy with something. The other person was stomach, and in a yeah, and me single-handedly, I was pushing. We've already registered the company, and there was a big business that came in and I executed it. And those other two partners come back to say they want the profit. What am I going to do when they were not involved? All this why I was marshalling it alone.
Okay. Now, by the next class, you are going to see what mistakes that has happened. Now, but let me quickly talk about the shine of loss of liability. You're asking whether it has to be equal. So, you see, I was talking about agreement, the need for partners to agree. It is from the law that we know around what you agree or negotiate. But because you are yet to know or see that law, that's why it is still very, distant to you. But I will, as I said, I will circulate the Partnership Act. I will mark out the areas you need to read. By the time you are back next week and we are talking about this, clearly having started a particular understanding of the content of that law, you will have a brighter idea about this one. Now, the other one, that are asking for money when they are not participating, again, is because you haven't tidied up your operations by, ironclad business agreement. Agreement is key. Negotiation is key. It is possible for you to know the areas where there could be problem, and it is those areas that we address, because the law provides some answers. Those answers may not fit your case. You are supposed to change and renegotiate it, and then and then spell out what you prefer as a solution. Once those things are done and signed, nobody can come behind and say, come and pay this, come and pay that. No. So, but as I said, all of those ones will be will be discussed next Friday and our next class after you have had opportunity over this holiday, for instance, to go through the Partnership Act, and then we'll be able to handle some of this things much better. Okay? Yeah.
Thank
Maybe
you,
the
sir.
last person. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other person? I really enjoyed this class this evening. Honestly, I must tell you this. That you are very vibrant, you are talking, you are sharing experiences, and you are teaching other people. Yeah, you can see the number is not going down because of I'm sure, having spoken to, having spoken over an hour, maybe my voice is becoming monotonous. But because your colleagues are talking, people are staying to want to hear. And these little things help a whole lot, for understanding, for confidence and all that. So anyway, it's just 5 minutes to 8. Maybe I shouldn't be pushing my luck further. I'm hoping that we have other people who want to talk. If there is none, I think I'm comfortable. I'm actually happy that I just had a very vibrant class. This is the best so far I've had, and that will be the best in the whole week because tomorrow is holiday. So I would have had a class tomorrow, but that won't hold. There is someone that is still, that should be the last person. I can't see your name, but please, I can see your hand. Can you please quickly ask your question? Or is it Fortress? Somebody is still okay, maybe. Well, in the absence of any other question, let me leave you happily at this point and wish you a very wonderful evening and good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, sir.
Good night,
Good
sir.
night. Yeah, good night.
What's class? I really quickly use the class.